Hi. Hi, this is Karl-James with my master's degree, postgraduate diploma, and fellowship of the Society of Scottish Antiquaries. So today I would like to think about one real big question that I keep being asked all the time. Did Roman Britain really exist in the way that it's portrayed by many archaeologists? So what I'm doing in the background in this minute, I'm just setting a couple of things up. So if you can bear with me just a few moments. We've gone live, so that's good. So I just want to see if anyone else is out there going to watch this live. So whilst I'm setting this up now, I would like for people, if you are watching this live, to sort of get some questions ready. And other than what I've already said, there are two things that I really want to articulate. And now I've got that little thing set up on here, we're going to just cut and paste this. And let's just press on this little button here to make sure that everything is flowing. And if you are out there, many welcomes. This is a look. The title, When Was Rome? And very, very important point. And we'll discuss this as well with my cup of tea waiting there. And I'm just making sure that we get this out to some many welcomes. Social medias. So let's just here we go. Let's just try and post this out a little bit out there a minute. So just see how this little sort of episode plays out. Let's just share it. So that one, try and share this out there. We're obviously looking at some rather interesting issues to do with, again, when was Roman Britain? So that's what we're looking at now. When was the time of Roman Britain? Now, being an author of 4 books, obviously my Romans in the Vale of Glamorgan in 1996. And then you've got Romans in the Vale of Glamorgan in 2014. Very different books, actually. And then you've got Romans in South Wales, that's 2021, and Romans in South Wales, a special edition. So it's the thing when you're typing the word Romans, people get very attacky. They're just saying, well, what you're saying is that everybody out there is Roman in Roman Britain, and that's not exactly true. And I'd never ever said that. And even though our history teachers may have said that in school, it's a bit of a hot fudge, really, to sort of assume that everything out there has got the Roman label, which is something that we're going to be discussing now. So I think that's going to be enough. Enough people this has been shared to, and let's check this out also on Roman history on your doorstep. Okay, so anyone actually out there who's actually joined us, and anyone who might actually be live, because this is actually quite a strange time to be doing this. one of the key issues with Roman Britain or Roman era Britain is the history and the historical references to Roman Britain. When people think about historical references in regards to Roman Britain, they immediately think about Julius Caesar. Now, Julius Caesar could be said to be one of the first historical sources to really write about Britain in any major way. You could argue that other writers wrote about it in other contexts, but that's a completely different issue. And then we come into sort of any sort of writers after that, Vespasian, Tacitus, Cassius Dio. You've got obviously anything attributed to Claudius, and the list does somewhat go on. And we've got somebody we have actually got people actually who've joined us online, which is brilliant. Welcome to you. And I'm just gonna type something else in here. Try and get this to another group out there as well. So anyone who's actually joined us, welcome into this look at when was Roman Britain. And all these historical sources about Roman Britain, or as I would say, Roman era Britain. They seem to paint quite an open, expansive knowledge of a land that from AD 43 came under the sphere of Roman influence. But with all what the history is saying about Roman era Britain, the evidence on the ground in regards to the invasions, and there are a few of them, so we're told, is very, very limited. Now, I could go on all day talking about Roman evidence, but when it comes to the invasions of to be Roman Britannicus, the evidence is basically stalled at the door, and the history is saying one thing, the archaeology is telling us another. So I think that's a bit of a clue. When we actually get into looking at Roman Britain as it develops from AD 43, before AD 43, but as it develops from AD 43, it's when we're looking around, like places like Calibre Atrobatum and Camula Junum, we actually Welling Garden, and we see that there's already Roman material out there. That there's Roman. This is the thing. Roman material out there, or Roman influenced building styles. We already see that before AD 43 in those three locations that I mentioned, and that's just to mention a few. You can even look at Fishbourne as well. And this when was Roman Britain is a really, really interesting debate, and the reason I'm putting this out there is so that people can put comments on this video, and hopefully maybe that they can sort of give some feedback. So when we start looking at the evidence, the archaeological evidence, we can point towards walls, villas, not really roads. And this is a key point. This is a key point. When when people look at hallmarks of the Roman Empire, what they always do, they talk about roads. Well, other than banks, raised surfaces, we don't have much in the way of decent Roman metalled surfaces. There's that example up in Northumberland, but that's even thought to be not thought to be later. So this is a thing. So the typical hallmarks of a Roman province, i.e., stone-built aqueducts, we don't have them. Roman roads, really solid paved roads, like the roads that lead into Rome or across Africa or Gaul or Spain or even Germanicus, right? We don't have metalled road surfaces. And to explain this thing about this metal road surface thing, what lots of Roman archaeologists, historians are now saying, including me, that what the Romans did, they simply took over existing roadways, trackways that were built before Rome ever came over here. Now, an individual's put online already, wherever Romans went, they laid roads supposedly. Well, they really didn't do them in Britain. They really didn't do them. When I'm writing my book, Romans in South Wales, which is still available, but we don't have many copies left, I mentioned this trackway thing, the Julius Maritima and the dozens of St Helens across Wales. And basically, whenever you go to these localities, you find nothing. You just basically find a trackway. And to explain the fact that you only find a trackway, the historians and archaeologists always say that the paving that was once there was used in wall building. Well, or it's been worn through, or it's eroded. Well, you go to Cornwall and tell me how you erode solid paved things of granite. Well, they weren't laid. They just didn't happen. So whenever you see things, programs like Time Team or Digging for Britain or Current Archaeology, whenever they show bits of Roman road, it's just basically stained soil or gravel. It's not what I would refer to as a Roman road. So that's a really interesting point. This issue that one of the big hallmarks of Roman civilization were the roads, and proper, really good roads. So we were told by historians, well, my history teacher used to say that a road itself had it used to vary. It used to sort of like a sandy layer, a gravel layer, a sort of hardy layer, and solid stone layer on top of that, with a ditch either side. And you don't see them; they're not there. They don't exist. So that's a really important point. So, and the other thing as well is the historical references. I think Vespasian may have mentioned something, but historical references don't actually even tell us that Roman roads were really laid in Britain, and we don't find the archaeological evidence. So that's like, so the biggest problem is that we have in Roman era Britain is definitely the lack of real Roman roads. Now, keep putting things on you here. I assume trackways are just normal worn paths from traveling people traveling. That's a really good point. Thank you, Mr. Luminous, or Mrs. What I'm trying to get at, if trackways already existed and they were used for the movement of military traffic, which is one of the things that we're told, or civilian traffic, right? In the summer months, it'd been quite easy to use. In the winter months, very difficult. So then Roman archaeologists, historians, they say, right, if we can't find roads, right, they use waterways and so on, rivers. Well, I say that all the time, but people are always using rivers before that. It's an island nation. You can't get around without using rivers. if you look at East Anglia, it was relatively just a boggy landscape. The only way to get around from island to island in East Anglia, for example, was using the river system, water systems. Look at User Fuss in York. Look at the Thames, London. The Thames itself was a boggy marsh with rivers everywhere. So you're going to use rivers. So this is one of the issues. This is one of the points I want to mention, and we've got a few people watching online, so that's good. So the other thing I should put in here as sort of a sub discussion is when we look at Roman Britain, you don't have anything in Roman Britain like that you find, for example, at Nîmes in France, or if you look at Carthage, or you look at even Lyon in France, and you look at locations in Germany, for example, frontier places like Germany, you actually find really interesting evidence, and even Switzerland. The point is that you don't really have decent stuff built in the Roman era in Britain. Let's have a little look to see. Railways built on Roman roads serve the same purpose: access to minerals and metals. Well, if the Roman roads were built, if the Roman era administrators and military used existing roadways, then they're not Roman roads anymore, are they? Here we go. I think allegedly the roads are built at least 15 feet deep into the earth. No, definitely not. Look, the point is with all of this, right? The point is with all of this. Let's just do a little. Let's go on to the share screen thing. Anyone who watches my stuff knows that I love the share screen. And by the way, I go live tonight at 7:30. So let's just no, we don't want that one. So we got the share screen, right? So if, for example, you've got location A and you've got location B, right? And location A, for example, in pre-Roman era, before AD 43, was a couple of huts, and that's what A is. And B is, I don't know, a coastal location, right? So the Roman military wants to get from B to A, right? So, people, the historians would usually say, right, what we're going to do, we're going to build a road from A to B to A, right? And for example, B to A is 10 miles. Now, we're told that the Roman military would march 30 miles a day. So the Roman military would easily get from B to A. However, if that was trees in the way, right? If there was a load of trees in the way, then you're not going to be able to march it in a day, 10 miles in a day, because you're going to have to get through the trees. Right. So everyone's still going with this Hannibal drawing, right? So then, if you go back to my history days in school, the history teacher used to say that wherever the Romans marched to, they would build a road, right? So they build a road. So say you've got a really interesting troop of, say, 1,000 legionaries and auxiliaries, right? And they're getting from B to A, right? So it's said that those 1,000 military would need to build a road to get from B to A, right? So the road surfaces, logistically, the road surfaces would be varying degrees. You're talking about scooping a little bit of the surface out. You're talking about sand. You're talking about gravels. You're talking about a rubbly surface, and you're talking about maybe a paved surface or a solid surface and a ditch either side, right? That's going to take these 1,000 individuals some time to build a road between B to A, right? And all they want to do is to get from B to A. So what is the point in building a road? Because it's very likely that these people that live in A want to get to B because it's coastal. So therefore, an existing trackway already exists. So if we look at the Teutoburg forests and Varus and Minius, there was a little windy path through the Teutoburg forest. It was quite narrow, but 3 legions went through it and were wiped out because they followed a pathway. Right. In theory, if you look at what the historians are telling us, Varus should have built a proper road as he's going through the Teutoburg forest. I'm sure 15,000, they say it's about 21, 22,000 Roman military would have been able to build a road, but it would have taken quite some time. That's the point. If you're going from B to A, what is the point of building a road? So then in later years, what happens is that the archaeologists and historians immediately say, because the Romans landed here, and we've usually got never any evidence. So, but they're saying, oh well, what we've got some kind of military post here at A. So therefore, it must be that they built a road between B to A. It's just we can't find it, or maybe the road surface has been eroded away, or maybe the road surface has been taken away. But they definitely built a road between B to A. No, they didn't, because they used the existing trackway. Therefore, if you're using the existing trackway to go from B to A, you get from B to A. You're already there in say, a day or 2 days. You don't need this road. So therefore, the roads never existed. So when you look at Magaray's work, which is published in the 1970s, surveyed in the 1960s, most of the roads that Magaray talks about are actually existing metal trackways to get from A to B, fort from fort. If you look around the country, most forts were accessible using ships and boats. If we look at Usk, if we look at Usk itself, Burim, Usk, and you go to the likes of Iska, Kalian, right? They didn't use a road; they used the river system, the River Usk. If you look at the Roman military base at the Roman military base at Monmouth, for example, let's get rid of this. The Roman military base at Monmouth, for example, there's a river there, the River Mono. If you look at the Roman military base at Abergavenny, right, there's the River Veni, for example, there's a river there, right? When we look at all this, what we actually start to see is that roads were not constructed. It's an absolute nonsense. So anyway, let's just, here we go. The logistics don't work. They don't work. By that, I mean, they cut away deep into the ground, then backfilled with various materials. Yeah, they don't work. And this is a really, really good point. Keep putting your stuff on there. The roads having metal surfaces don't actually work. They just don't simply exist. They never did. So then the big question is, and folks, I'll be going up until 20 past, so we've got 7 minutes to put stuff up on here. And don't forget to like and subscribe. People, like and subscribe out there, please. Get the likes and subscribe. And if anyone wants to join, it's £1.99 a month, and it helps me keep putting more sort of stuff out there. Now, this whole, and by the way, if people keep chatting and there's more people up here, I might stay longer. So there you've got my company for a bit longer. Romans in South Wales. If anyone wants a copy, then I'll put my PayPal details up there. You can get hold of a copy. There's my PayPal, and if we type in that, and I can send it to you for £12. Romans in South Wales and PayPal payment. So if anyone wants that, then they can. Fair enough. Right. Anyway, I just thought I'd make that on there, might make a bit of a sale there. So when we look at, so this is the question. So when was Roman Britain? We briefly looked at the road stuff, and okay, so this mega building as a sign of Roman civilization. Right. Okay. Look at Hadrian's Wall. Whenever you go to Hadrian's Wall, it's one of the most disappointing Roman military sites on the planet. It's basically a wall. It's a wall between those north and it's a wall between those south. That's all it is. It's nothing more, nothing less. And what we actually start to see is that Hadrian's Wall was more of like a customs border, a bit like a customs border in Ireland in the 1970s, a bit of barbed wire, a bit of stuff. If you drove a truck through it, you could probably get through it, that type of thing. And what we then see is that Roman civilization extended north and south of the wall, very successfully north and south of the wall. There's bits of Hadrian's Wall. The forts, some of the forts on Hadrian's Wall were actually fed from aqueducts north of the wall. So if Hadrian's Wall is a military post, why is your fort south of the wall being utilized from water north of the wall? It just don't make sense. The mass just doesn't add up. And as frontiers go, if Hadrian's Wall is such a major military location, why is it, other than the Vindolanda tablets, we hardly see any other references in Roman literature to Hadrian's Wall? The thing is about Hadrian's Wall, right? We call it Hadrian's Wall because of a visit by Emperor Hadrian. That's it. References to Hadrian's Wall as a major military frontier, a major military backdrop, are very, very limited. And you start to think there's something not quite right there. Many people point to the existence of sort of major Roman civilization in Britain to looking, for example, at this silly stuff that we actually see written in the sort of 400s. The groans of the Briton is at 436, and we've got the letter to Honorius, the Britons needing help. Well, turns out that Britannia was referring to a place in Italy, so we can't really use that as a source. And then you've got the groans of the Britons. Well, of course the Britons are bloody groaning, but the point is, what we're trying to talk is that we base Roman Britain on some very dubious historical sources, and when we actually come to the evidence, it gets really, really difficult. Now, when we look at sort of trying to understand about the existence of Roman Britain, is to actually look then back to the archaeology. By about 420, what we're seeing with sort of Chedworth now, we're actually finding mosaics and at other locations. We're actually finding mosaics being constructed into the 410s, the 420s, at the point we're saying Roman civilization in Britain ended. There's a point with all of this. It's just as follows, right? And I think it's quite simple. Trying to sort of work out the mathematics, working out the evidence, and flowing with what's going on, right? So I just got to put some power in there a minute. Got to get my phone working. Right, good. So again, nobody's written anything online for a little bit, which is a bit of a shame. So when we look at the Roman mathematics, the archaeology versus the history, and for a massive period of time, if this was such a major Roman military province, why is it there's very, very little being written about it? And this is a bit disconcerting, when in fact it's such a major Roman military province. I always say that Roman era Britain is definitely a backwater. It's definitely a backwater, some weird experiment that the Roman world sort of wants to play around with. So for me, if I want to spit this out, what I feel is going on within sort of before AD 43, all the way into the latter part of the 400s, what I believe is going on is that a small number of people have decided that the idea of Rome is good for them. So they're building villas. A small number of people are actually deciding that living in a town is for them. But when we actually start to look at the evidence for people living in towns in Roman Britain, when we look at places like Venta Silurum, which is, as you know, Caerwent, or we look at Londinium, London, what we see is big areas of these localities unoccupied. And the walls at these localities come in very late. For example, the wall around Caerwent comes in roughly in the 300s. And the towers don't get added until about the late 340s. Right. And you start to think, well, and the area occupied within Caerwent is 50-50. And what we do see is areas that people were meant to be living in, right? It's agriculture within the walls of Caerwent, which is quite odd. And we sort of see this at Viraconium Roxeter, and not too much at Caliva Atrebatum, but there's areas at Caliva Atrebatum that ain't massively settled either. Same as Corinion, Cirencester, very much so. And when we look at this project, again, the greatest remains in Britain, if we want to say the greatest sets of remains remaining in Britain from the Roman era above ground, which is substantial, and we want to, other than the walls, right, just don't put the walls in the list, right? So we're talking about structural stuff, buildings, houses, baths and stuff, right? So the best remains that we've got in this land from the Roman era is a big chunky wall at Viraconium, and that's basically it for Roxeter, near Chester. And even though we've got good stuff in sort of Eberacum, York, it's walls. And most anything from like the sewage system and the baths in York are below ground surface. There's a few things sticking out, but they're just mainly walls, right? London, for example, well, you can't really look at the Temple of Mithras or the Guildhall amphitheatre as major substantial Roman remains, because they're basically under the ground, or they're just below ground level. Right, so we're looking at that one bit of wall at Viraconium, and Viraconium seemed to be used into the 500s beyond anyway by the local by the local people. And then in Wales, let's just take Wales, right? Wales, greatest sets of remains in Wales other than walls above ground level. Nope. No, we can't. We're not including the amphitheatres either, because even the amphitheatre at Moradunum, Carmarthen's, just nothing really to write home about. And even the amphitheatre at Caerleon, which I do believe was actually built by the civilian population, it's ridiculous having an amphitheatre directly outside the Roman military walls, overlooking the Roman military walls into it. Why would a military individual build an amphitheatre that is taller than the walls? It's a bit of a risk, isn't it? So nothing really in Wales of any substantial note built in the Roman period above ground level, which still survives. Right, so we're struggling now. And then you look through most of England, Viraconium again, that gets to 3 mentions. The Roman military wall, for example, at Ravenglass. Well, that's Bath House. Yeah. Okay. We'll give you that one. And then we start to struggle. There are other bits and pieces out there. Look at the wall at Rotara, which is in Leicester. But that Thamea, that's a Bath, part of a Bath house. So we've got nothing in Britain. We don't have any triumphal arches. Don't even argue Rochester. Not Rochester. It is Rochester, isn't it? On the coast. Anyway, I've probably got that one. Richborough, not Rochester. Yeah, there is Roman remains in Rochester. Richborough on the south coast, Kent. That's ground level. So when we're actually talking about Roman military overpowering civilization, right? We've got the walls. Roman era. What have we got? We don't have a lot. And for me, I'm not buying into this idea that Roman civilization in Britain never existed, because it definitely did, but not to the degree that lots of historians and archaeologists talk about. And I'm just gonna read what this said. Hands are busy, need more coffee, but you are a good teacher. I have nothing to interject. Oh, come on, please. Thank you, Luminous. So I want to ask viewers some really good questions. I want you to challenge me, right? You prove to me that this was a proper, functioning, full Roman province. Give me the evidence. It can't be historical writings. Give me the archaeological evidence for that. The other thing I'm going to mention, right? The other thing I'm going to mention, I love Roman pottery, right? I love it. And I love anything Roman, but then again, I love anything medieval, prehistoric. Whenever we're looking at Roman sites in Britain, yeah, we do get lots of material, but away from the Roman military sites. Yeah. So I've looked at some Roman villa sites, quite a few across the country. At Shepton Mallet, this was in the 1990s. A group of students were excavating there for one of the local universities. Yeah, and they were finding lots of material, but it was nothing. When we look at the Roman excavations at the Roman Villa at Caermead in the Vale of Glamorgan, or you want to look at any time team excavation, or you want to look at any digging for Britain stuff, or you want to look at Chedworth, or you want to look at Braden, or you want to look at the site Welling Garden, you want to look at any of these sites, right? There is Roman material, but it's nothing on the level of what you find on the continent. So, for example, outside Rome, there's a heap, which is quite some meters high, of just amphora that's just been discarded. There's a rubbish dump of material, big piles of material outside Rome. Well, yeah, Rome had a population of 1 million people. Yeah, we can't deny that. Right, tenement blocks and all the rest of it. We can't deny that. But when you compare our archaeology with the archaeological artifacts with stuff on a continent, the Roman era really didn't sing very much here. We struggle to get bucket loads of evidence. So we're coming up to the end of this recording now, but I'd like to read what Mr. Luminous says. All I can say is the best I can come up with is the Romans were here at this point. Yeah, they were. We know the Roman military was here. We know there were traders here. We know that people who wanted to be Roman here. There were people who decided to take on Roman ways, but 90% of the population remained native. Very strained and on the decline as a country and world power. Yes, I agree. It always makes sense to use existing infrastructure. I would completely agree with that. But we're told that the Roman era is about influence on your stamp on the landscape, right? And when you put a stamp on the landscape, you build triumphal arches. They don't exist. When you put a stamp on the landscape, you build proper metal road surfaces that last, like the Appian Way going into Rome and all the other Roman road systems in the Roman Empire elsewhere. They still exist. So if they can exist there, always the weather. Oh, bollocks. Stop making up excuses. The Roman era did sing here, but it wasn't singing as if it was singing in Hispania, Spain, right? It wasn't singing as if we're in Jerusalem. Wow, what a wonderful morning. So that's where we're going to end now. So if anyone wants to put anything online now, please do. And I'm just going to mention, I'm just going to mention again about my book. my book. I'm going to mention that again. If anyone wants a copy, I can get it over to you. And when you pay via PayPal, don't forget to like and subscribe. Like and subscribe and join. So there we go. If any, okay, we're gonna end this recording now. So if anyone wants to put any points, really appreciate people's input and watching here. Thank you, Mr. Luminous. Oh, the campaign to Britain couldn't have been as successful for Rome as the history describes. And you know what? That's a really good end. One quick point. Actually, this is 2 points. When Julius Caesar invaded Britain in 55 and 54 BC in his failed attempt in 56, he said he came, he saw, he conquered. But, you know, he didn't leave much in the way. It just a little bit here and there, and you've got Fishbourne, a little bit of evidence of Roman era continuance, and then you've got AD 43. Here we go. I am renovating a Roman mine in Nent Heath, Pennines. Can't find anything Roman. So far good video, young fella. That's a, do you know, can we actually stay on a minute, Mark? Right? Can we actually stay on a minute? Sorry, guys, I was just about to go. That is a really good point. You guys are not really enforcing what I'm saying. I'm not going to go as far as saying that you agree with what I'm saying. What I'm going to say is exactly these points, or we would see far more influence. Yeah, well, where is it? You're renovating a Roman mine in Nent Pennant. And tell you what, right? I would love to know more about these mines in the Pennines, right? If you don't want to buy a copy of my book, right? There's my email there, right? There's my email, and just please send me some details. And actually, I would love to do a video on that. I really would. I would really get in contact with me about that. Love info. Oh, I'd love info on the mines. That sounds really great. Now, anyway, I'm setting myself for a fall now. I'll be on here all day. This thing about I am renovating a Roman mines in Nent Heath, Pennines. Can't find anything Roman so far. I'm loving that. That is the point. Okay, so here we go. Let's just look at maps from the 1800s. Really good ordnance survey maps. Everything's marked as a fort, right? Iron Age stuff marked as a fort. Achaia, right? You see hill forts, Iron Age bank and ditched enclosures marked as Roman Chaia, marked as forts, right? There's a Roman site near Mardy, Ferndale Valley, right? And it's basically it looks like an Iron Age site, right? But you can clearly see that any Roman military stuff there, the military basically took over this previous Iron Age fort, occupied it for a couple of weeks, and then buggered off. And this is the typical thing. What you see is these bank and ditch enclosures, and it's almost as if they continue to be utilized, and they continue to be loved after the Roman era and after the Iron Age and all the rest of it, right? I'm just checking my feeds on this a minute, and I'm just you know, I'm loving this video because we've got new stuff coming up here, which I'm really loving, and so this thing about the mines, like I've got myself distracted now. Sorry. So the Roman mine in Nent Heath, Pennines. Now, yeah. So back to what I was saying. So what we got these localities in the late 1800s, and they're marked on maps as Roman this, Roman that. Everybody found Roman. Even the remains of a church is going to be Roman. They always put this on maps. So in generations, when people look at maps, they say everything's Roman, but it wasn't. Oh, this is a Roman road. Oh my God. Whenever you look at maps, it's like this is a Roman road. I've seen a map of my home county of the Vale of Glamorgan, and everything's marked as a Roman road. As long as it's straight, it's Roman, right? The M4 motorway, The straight bits is Roman. The M5, M6 is definitely a Roman road. Anything that's straight is Roman. Absolute nonsense. You're traveling along a road, just because it's straight, it doesn't mean to say it's Roman. In the Second World War, the Americans, when they were building roads from A to B to get to their bases, they would build roads straight. I can't remember the Romans being, I can't remember the Americans and the Romans having anything to do with each other. So it's again back to this Pennines thing. When we think about the Pennines, anywhere like that, it may have been that the mines could have sort of given some of their output, not given, sold their output to the Roman military, right? But then that's it. So it's in the Roman era, so therefore it's a Roman mine. That's all I'm going to say. Oh, we've got Kate on now. Oh my God, I was going to go, Kate. Flipping heck, I wanted to go. So the other thing as well is what we usually see about with Dolacothai in West Wales, Pym Saint in West Wales near Lampeter. That's a Roman era gold mine. Yeah, I can't deny it that it would have needed military prowess to blast with wooden hoses. Yes, wooden hoses did exist. Blast a whole mountainside to obtain the gold and so on, right? But then what you then find is that usually after the military's been in an area for a time, they hand it over to civilian jurisdiction. And there's high penalties if the Roman taxation system is screwed. So they handed it over to military, over to civilians. So therefore, if you've got civilians take it over, you're not going to find the evidence. So by the time, if any Roman era sort of evidence with like Roman tools did exist, it would long since be gone. And therefore, we're down to the question, what is Rome? When is Rome? Most of the population of Roman era Britain was native British, right? Most people did not want to sign up to the idea of ancient Rome. So what we're going to do now is I do need to go because I've got to feed my animals, but here we go. Mr. Luminous, anyone else got anything else to say quickly before I go? Mr. Luminous, the funny thing about Julius Caesar's triumphs, one was legitimate and the other three were questionable, with one being outright hatred by the population. So it wouldn't surprise me to hear he wrote an account that isn't accurate but favors himself. Well, you know, I tell you what, most people who write like to favor what they're writing about. I'm a bit odd in that respect, that I like to put things that I sometimes don't agree with, which is fine. But when you're somebody like Julius Caesar, you like to sort of put out there that everything that you're saying is accurate and so on. So again, Mac 3, if you could contact me about your mines, I'd really be my email address is there on the scroll list. Thank you for signing in, Kate. We will be on live looking at the Barry Heritage tomorrow. Some really interesting things from 11:30. I teach my class tonight at 7:30 as well, on this platform, and probably sometimes a little bit later as well. And anyone who is interested and they want to sign up to my online classes where they can have some more direct input and to be heard on screen, again, my email address, again, writing if you want to join that, or and if you want to join, sort of get involved and sort of do live with me, actually hear your voice being heard, then get in contact with me as well. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna leave now. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and join. I really need another cup of tea and a partridge in a pear tree. Thanks for watching. This has been Carl James Outford, over and out. I should have some music there, shouldn't I? Oh, hang on a minute. Let's have some ending music. Here we go. Let's have some ending music. That's the ending music. Thank you very much. Carl James Outford has now left the building. Don't forget to like and subscribe and join. Thank you very much, Mr. Luminous. Thank you very much, Monsuave. And thank you very much, Mark 3. Thank you. Out of there. Carl James Outford has now left the building. Thank you.